Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. After being abandoned at the airport, a dog struggles to survive while awaiting her owner's return. Today we will recap the story of the movie, A Dog Named Palma, from 2021. The year is 1977. Igor Polsky is walking through the airport carrying his dog named Palma in his cart. Palma is a German shepherd. As they walk through the airport lobby, she pays attention and sniffs everything around her. After checking in, Igor goes to board the plane with Palma, but a setback occurs. At the door of the plane, the flight attendant asks him about the medical authorization documents for his dog to travel. Igor gets nervous and starts to look around, but he just can't find it. The man begs the flight attendant to allow his faithful friend to board. After all, this is a trip of urgency, because he will start his dream job the next day, which he has longed for all his life. Moved by the story, Nina decides to help Igor. She advises him to go to the airport veterinarian as soon as possible, so he can get a flight certificate for Palma. Igor immediately went in search of the doctor, and arriving there they began to examine Palma. After a careful examination, the doctor refuses to give the dog a flight certificate, because the dog has an infection in one of her ears. Igor tries to bribe the doctor, but he stands firm in his decision. Nervous, Igor returns to the plane and meets again with Nina to tell her what happened. The passenger says that he has no one who can take care of Palma during the trip, because he is the only one the dog can count on. Seeing the man's tearful eyes, the flight attendant decides to let Palma board. However, another mishap occurs. The airport manager meets them and refuses to allow the dog to board the plane without the proper documents. Igor is upset and feels obliged to leave his faithful friend behind. After all, he could not afford to lose his dream job. He takes Palma's cart away, apologizes, and hugs her for the last time. Meanwhile, the dog also looks with emotion at her master. He then throws away her favorite ball and Palma promptly runs to catch it. At that moment, Igor hurries up and climbs into the plane. When Palma turns around, she realizes that her owner has left. Not understanding why she was left behind, she drops the little ball on the ground and runs after the aircraft. All the passengers realize that the dog is running after the plane, but Igor, heartbroken, just ignores it. The aircraft takes off and Palma chases it until it disappears into the clouds. Soon after takeoff, the airport guards receive a complaint about the dog and go after it, but Palma manages to escape. It was there that she met, in a sort of workshop, the airport mechanic, who liked her right away and offered the dog some water. The guards arrive there and ask Tikhanov about the animal, but he lies to protect it. Meanwhile, a little boy named Kolya appears looking distractedly out the window of an airplane. On that same flight is a powerful minister named Ivan Lisko, who is very afraid of landings and takeoffs. Kolya's father is the pilot of the plane and is worried about his son, so he calls a flight attendant and asks if the boy has slept. Back at the airport, Tikhanov is taking care of Palma and offers the poor dog some food. Just as she is about to eat, she hears an airplane noise and runs towards the runway. The pilot is preparing to land, but spots the dog and tries to make a maneuver. The plane sways and the minister knocks over his drink, which provokes comments among the other passengers and makes Ivan feel humiliated. The plane finally manages to land and Ivan Lisko, upon disembarking, scolds the airport manager for what has happened. The passengers are leaving and Palma examines them one by one, looking for their owner. The manager gets angry about this and asks them to throw the dog out as soon as possible. The guards manage to capture Palma and lock her inside a bus. At that moment, the boy Kolya gets off the plane and hears the guards planning to put an end to the dog. The little boy feels bad for the poor animal and decides to save it. He gets on the bus and rescues Palma. One of the guards gets angry and is about to hit Kolya. But at the same moment, Lazarev, the pilot of the plane, appears and warns them that that is his son. Afterwards, the airport manager scolds Lazarev for his failure during the landing and also for his son releasing the animal. The pilot then explains that his wife recently passed away and he is having emotional problems. In addition, the man spends all his time worrying about his son. After all, because of his busy routine, he has no proximity to the boy, who lived only with his mother. According to Lazarev, all this may have impaired his ability to make decisions at the time of landing. After hearing the pilot's sad account, the manager tries to console him and tells him that he has only 1 month left to get his international license. Lazarev then feels happy to receive this news. Meanwhile, Palma with her little red ball returns to Tikhanov. She feels good and protected by the old mechanic. Proving his care, the gentleman places a rug in the shade so she can rest. Kolya and Lazarev arrive at the apartment. However, the boy is upset with his father because of what had happened earlier and decides to run away at night. The boy arrives at the airport and tries to buy a ticket to his homeland, but the attendants refuse to sell it, because without a guardian he cannot travel. Soon after, they tell the security guards to find out who the parents of that child are. Kolya spots a family and pretends to be with them in order to get on the plane unnoticed. However, the flight attendant discovers that he is not part of that group and warns the head of security, but the boy manages to escape quickly before they find him. He hides in a cabin, then suddenly Palma finds him and starts barking at the boy. Afraid that the security guard will find him, Kolya leaves the cabin and runs along with the dog, who guides him to his hiding place, and the two of them spend the night there. The next day, Kolya's father wakes up and, upon discovering that his son is missing, is super worried. Lazarev calls the police, and just as he is about to file a report, he receives a call from Tikhanov, informing him that the boy had spent the night there and that he is safe. The man then immediately heads to the workshop and finds his son sleeping with Palma. He tries to take the boy home, and after the boy's resistance, Lazarev loses patience, but Palma intervenes and separates them in order to protect Kolya. The dog barks at her father, and afterwards Tikhanov says that he can go to work in peace. After all, there is a flight waiting for him. He then assures him that he will take care of his son. Because he is late for his flight, Lazarev accepts the mechanic's help and says goodbye. The gentleman prepares a meal for Kolya and calls him to eat. The boy tells Tikhanov how it was the night before, says that Palma had barked a lot when she found him and caught the attention of the security guards. The gentleman claims that Palma actually saved his life, because getting into the cabin of the plane is dangerous. The dog had reciprocated the help, as the boy rescued her when she was stuck in the bus. The commissary Nina is the janitor's daughter. She meets them and scolds Tikhanov for drinking coffee. After all, it is bad for her old father's health. During the conversation, Palma again runs towards the runway when a plane lands and the boy goes after the dog, who once again closely examines the passengers, looking for her owner. Kolya stands melancholy beside the animal and says that, like him, he is also alone. After all, his mother had left him forever. The next day, looking at the dog's sad condition, Kolya tries to get Igor's address from the airport counter. But the attendant refuses to give her any more details and claims that the information is confidential. Meanwhile, another plane lands and Palma doesn't give up hope. This time she spots a man who looks like Igor and follows him into the lobby, but the dog is spotted by the guards. Palma quickly catches up to the man, but discovers that this is not her owner. The security guards keep following the poor dog and are about to catch her with a net, but Kolya manages to distract them just in time and once again helps Palma escape. The dog runs through the lobby and all that running around causes a big mess and confusion at the airport. Finally, Palma and the boy manage to get away from the guards and hide in a safe place, until the lady at the counter approaches them and gives them Igor's address. The good lady also shows them the best way to escape from there. Meanwhile, the airport manager once again gets angry with Lazarev because of the mess and destruction made by Palma and his son in the lobby. The spiteful woman blackmails the pilot, saying that if he helps capture the dog, he will have his international flight license approved quickly. So Lazarev, without a second thought, accepts the proposal. The pilot, accompanied by some dog hunters, approaches the place where Kolya and Palma are. Along with the boy are also Nina and Tikhanov, who try to stop the hunters from taking Palma. However, the attempt is a failure and the dog is captured and put inside a truck. Kolya is very sad and disappointed to see Palma being taken away from him. The mechanical gentleman is also very upset by this situation and tells Kolya's father never to go back there. Before they leave, Nina hands Lazarev a letter that Kolya had written to Igor. When evening comes, Kolya and Lazarev argue. The boy complains to his father that he was never there for him and never sought him out before his mother died. Lazarev then tries to justify himself by saying that he worked hard and sent money to his mother. This seemed to be enough for him. Kolya then states that he would rather live in an orphanage than with his father, and Lazarev readily agrees, saying that the next day he will look for a place for the boy to stay. Later that same night, the pilot begins to read the letter that his son wrote. In it, the boy was begging Igor to take back his dog and his faithful companion, Palma. The boy also mentions that the most difficult and painful time in anyone's life is when they are left behind by the people they love the most. Lazarev is very moved to read the letter, and meanwhile he also notices Kolya sneaking out of his room. The man then notices that his son is going to rescue Palma from prison and, touched by the letter, the pilot decides to help him. The two arrive at the dog shelter and, surprisingly, find Nina. When they get there, they discover that Palma has managed to escape from the shelter, but Kolya is not worried, because he knows where the dog is. The day is already clear and they arrive at the airport. Kolya sees that there is a plane landing and begins to look for Palma, but to his distress, he cannot find her. But soon the boy sees the dog running towards the plane to have a look at the passengers, as usual. Upon witnessing this scene, Lazarev realizes that he must do something to help the poor dog. The next day, he calls a reporter who takes a picture of Palma and writes the story of the faithful dog on the front page of the newspaper. The airport manager gets very angry with the pilot for doing this and also says that now he will never get his long-awaited international license. At that very moment, she receives a call from the minister, who reveals that he wishes to use the story of the dog Palma to draw the attention of the population. Afterwards, Ivan praises Lazarev for her work and approves his international flying license. Palma's news becomes a big attraction for anyone who arrives at the airport. Even as time goes by, she keeps running after all the planes and examines each of the passengers in hopes of finding their owner again. Eventually, a year passes, but she still hasn't found Igor. Lazarev and Kolya are also finally getting along quite well. The powerful minister orders the airport staff to make a shelter for Palma right next to the runway, and Kolya realizes that Ivan is just taking advantage of the poor dog's situation. Palma is sad and missing her owner. She simply stops eating any and all food and doesn't even go after the planes on the landings, as she did since the day she was abandoned. The airport vet had to be called, and after examining her, he explains that Palma is experiencing severe depression. After all, she is very loyal. The man further says that the dog will probably only survive that night and that this condition would only pass if she found Igor again. At dusk, a storm begins and Kolya notices that Palma is lying in the rain with a sad expression. The boy goes out and tries to carry the poor dog with him, but she does not obey him. The boy is hurt, and tells her that everyone he loves always leaves him alone, first his mother and now Palma. Kolya then takes off his jacket and covers his friend in an attempt to keep her warm. Finally, the two of them spend the night together, under all that rain. The next day, Palma wakes up active and cheerful, unlike the rainy night of the previous day. Her friend Kolya is very happy to see her like this and takes her to his home. At home, Lazarev receives a call from the airport department saying that Igor has arrived to take Palma back with him. Just then, the pilot takes his son and the dog to the airport. Kolya is once again upset and refuses to give Palma to Igor, because he is now very attached to the dog. Lazarev makes him understand that, unfortunately, Palma is someone else's and if he really loves her, he should let her go. Upon hearing this, Kolya agrees to return the dog, and after they get out of the car, they realize that the minister has called several press teams for live coverage of Igor's return, all to promote his own image. In a few hours, Igor arrives and spots Palma. The man moves toward his dog, finally reuniting with her again. Palma approaches, however, she does not seem to be very happy. The Kolya boy hands Palma's collar to Igor and returns to his father, his face sad and heartbroken. Seeing his son in this condition, Lazarev tries to talk to Igor and asks the man to give up Palma, offering him a good amount of money. At this point, Igor reveals that he doesn't really want to take Palma back, but that he is being forced to do so by pressure from the minister. The man says that Ivan had warned him that if he didn't get Palma back, he would lose his dream job. In a few minutes, Igor takes Palma away, but the dog resists and tries to escape. Once again, however, she is caught by the security guards, who make her board the plane by force. Meanwhile, Lazarev, who is the pilot of the aircraft, refuses at the last minute to take off. The airport manager threatens the pilot and says that he could lose his license because of this attitude. Lazarev is convinced of what he is doing and simply ignores her, making the decision to get off the plane. The woman is then forced to call another pilot to handle the flight. Meanwhile, one of the flight attendants approaches Igor and asks for Palma's medical report to let her fly. Igor, once again, seems to have no medical report and the minister gets angry with the manager, ordering her to get that plane off the ground as quickly as possible. However, the woman says that the rules must be followed and reminds us that without the medical report, she cannot allow the dog to board. Igor understands everything and releases Palma, then tells the minister that he may have made some mistake in recognizing the dog. Immediately, Palma runs towards Kolya, who is outside waiting for her. At this point, the two friends embrace and both feel extremely happy that they can finally be together. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.